was enough for the 3 points. Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero!
Hello football fans, welcome to another episode of The Football Therapist. I'm your host, Ramy. I'm joined once again by Haytham and Yehia Hassan. First of all, I'd just like to give a shout out to these two fine gentlemen. The first episode has been up. You can follow it now on all of the podcast players, and it's also on our YouTube and Facebook page. We'll be sharing those links with you guys very shortly. Thank you guys so much for the first episode. I think we got a lot of positive feedback, and I'd also like to give a shout out to my nephew Carl. He's been helping us with the production and editing of these episodes, and he's been doing a really good job of it. And we're back with our second episode, and I've got these two fine gentlemen back again with me, and we're going to be covering a couple of topics concerning the Ucl Games that ran last week, and we're also going to cover a little bit about the whole Project Big Picture debacle that was happening in the English leagues, and also maybe cover a little bit about the whole Mesut Ozil case that happened. So thanks guys for joining again.
Thank you. Good to be back, Ramy.
What happened to your Twitter account, Haytham?
Oh dear. Well, after our podcast, I started sharing a lot of live updates and videos of match highlights from the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Champions League as well. And I got a warning.
Too many videos?
Yeah, too many videos.
Okay. You meant your
for beIN Sports and Sky Sports and all that kind of thing. So eventually ended up getting suspended permanently, I guess. I tried to appeal it, but...
well, hopefully it'll be back up and running soon again.
I hope so too. You know, I need to address those 3 followers that I have.
Yeah, I mean, had I known you posting live updates and videos, I would have actually followed.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, more incentive for all you listeners to catch up with H&M_FC.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be back up soon.
Which is no longer there, yeah.
Great. So let's jump into the podcast, I guess. So, guys, the UCL Games that ran last week, there was quite a few interesting points that happened over there. Obviously, I mean, we saw like some of the expected factors: Juve, Barca, Liverpool, City, Leipzig, and Atlanta all winning. Chelsea, Sevilla playing out a stalemate 0-0. Surprisingly, and this goes back to the topic that we were discussing last week about PSG and Man United having a tough group, and we were expecting PSG to lead it. Man United beating PSG 2-1 after that Bruno Fernandes penalty, and there was a Martial own goal, so a very active game. So that was a little bit unexpected.
I don't think anyone ever gave Man United a chance against
especially
PSG.
not Yehia.
I mean, well, yeah, especially not Yehia, yeah.
Which is stupid because last year they actually beat them. You know.
Well, yeah, thanks to Big Rom in attack, you know, he changed the game last time around, but I really wasn't expecting Man United to...
Well, you know, I'm eating my own words now as well, because I was talking about how I thought Dortmund were going to cruise through the group, and then Lazio beat them 3-1.
Yeah, I think man for man, I mean, maybe a bit controversial to say it, but Dortmund are a better side. I wouldn't say way superior, but they're a more informed side and have a younger, more youthful, more informed side. Lazio haven't been doing too well in the league so far in Serie A. That's why I predicted Dortmund would walk all over them. Yeah. Haaland got the goal, but Immobile struck first, and they just didn't look back. They were...
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of these were like, you know, the results that sort of somewhat expected, except for these two, but the ones that were really unexpected before we get into the Real and Shakhtar, because obviously we're gonna talk about that. Inter being held 2-2 by Mönchengladbach. Yeah. So that was on a Lukaku brace. That was also a little bit surprising that Mönchengladbach actually took it to Inter. But Bayern beating Atletico 4-0. Kingsley Coman, who we were talking about last week, with Gnabry out with COVID, he came in and scored a brace. And Atletico, first of all, Atletico conceding 4 goals, and also not being able to score with a new attacking threat like Luis Suarez. That was quite interesting.
I mean, in Atletico's formation, I feel like Simeone has been doing the same thing, the same more or less 4-4-2 formation. Focus on defense, focus on chance creation, focus on capitalizing on opportunities, but like with players like Felipe, Savic, Trippier, you would think that they would be a bit solid in defense. Experienced players like Koke. I'm actually surprised that they conceded 4 goals, but I mean, you got Bayern Munich. They kicked off the Champions League campaign like the champions, in proper championship form. So, Kingsley Coman also got an assist.
It is proper scary because if you think about it, Narby is in there, which is one of their best players right now, and it's like Coman coming in as if it's nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not even a small team or anything. It's Atletico Madrid. I mean, honestly, I'm not really surprised Madrid didn't score, just because of how they usually play, which is a super low block, play counter-attack. But like you said, the defense absolutely collapsing that way.
Yeah.
I mean,
how about that Tolisso goal, by the way?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
But wouldn't you have expected that with the likes of Suarez in the squad now, they'd be more of a more potent attacking threat than they were before?
But the thing is so I think Bayern are a very well drilled team in the sense that it's the German league in general, right? Like the fitness levels are ridiculous just because that league is very, very pressing oriented. So it's expected that they can play a high line and then be able to run back and do a little low block and sniff out any attacks or so on. And it's well documented that Suarez, he's getting old, he's not as quick. So maybe the usual counter-attacking tactics that Atletico go with aren't really as effective with him not being able to have the pace to run actually.
Right. Yeah. So Bayern off to a flying start to defend the championship. You must have been happy, Haytham, about seeing Inter being held.
It was the same issue that they suffered from in the Milan derby. They lost concentration in defense. Their defense is a mess. I mean, even the second goal was Vidal's fault. Julian Hoffmann's goal when Borussia Mönchengladbach took the lead 2-1. So I don't know. I think Conte needs to fix up their defensive positioning and organization and kind of get that team a bit more disciplined, because in attack they're good, and Lukaku is stepping up and he's scoring the goals, but Conte's defensive players are not helping him out. And Arturo Vidal. Speaking of my broken heart, Kingsley Coman last week. Big shout out to Arturo Vidal. It sucks seeing him in an Inter shirt, but he's not playing that well.
So why is it not working? Is it the midfield players, wing backs aren't really able to track back because you have Ashley Young on the side?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Ashley Young played in the last game, but their defensive trio of Kolarov, D'Ambrosio, and not doing too well. But I think midfield and up, they're a great side. They're capable of scoring goals, capable of creating chances, capable of playing well and all that. They've got the depth there. If they're unable to create something, they can always throw on Christian Eriksen into the mix. But I think defensively they're a disaster.
I mean, it's still early as well, so obviously first game of the Champions League first round, so we'll see how that pans out. Speaking of broken hearts, and the big surprise of the first round, and it took me a lot to recover to talk about this, but Real's lost to Shakhtar Donetsk. So that was just basically... It started off, I think, with the lineup that Zidane had the Clasico tonight in mind. So we're recording this on the 24th of October, and the Clasico is being played later on today. So I think Zidane had that in mind when he sort of kept some of his main starters out on the bench. And he was probably also thinking, well, Shakhtar have 10 starting players out due to COVID. That was a huge shocker to go 3-0 up by half. Yeah, it was painful. There was a good response in the second half. Absolute screamer from Modric, beautiful goal. Vinny Jr. coming on as well, scoring with his first touch, getting them back in the game, and actually equalizing in the 90th minute before VAR cancelled it out. My thoughts are probably going to be biased, but for me that should not have been called because it actually touched the defender, so it shouldn't have been an offside. But it doesn't paper over the cracks that are obvious, which is that Real are struggling right now, and they need to find something to recover from that, because what's happening with them in this game, losing to Cadiz in the league, even talks now from some outlets about Zidane's future being decided by the result of the Clasico tonight. that's really a jarring prospect, and they need to get their house in order. But at the same time, Barca also lost to Getafe in the league. So there's been interesting results, guys. I think the only top team, quote-unquote top team, that has yet to lose a game is AC Milan in all the top leagues. So
including their Europa League win away at Celtic as well.
A lot of big teams dropping points, right?
But I just want to backtrack 1 second to Real Madrid. You mentioned Luka Jovic last week. How did he do against?
He was invisible in the first half. Yeah, and then they brought Benzema on.
Okay.
In the second half.
Okay.
Probably wishes he was invisible when he did that COVID party.
Lots of talk right now about that. Even talk about him going to prison. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I really I don't want to go back to last week's topic, but I really feel sorry for Luka Jovic, to be honest. But about the big teams all dropping points, what do you think is the reason behind that?
I mean, it's difficult to say, but I think a big part of it is the fact that there wasn't really a summer break. I actually don't know what was the difference between Bayern winning the Champions League and then when they had their the Super Cup, the European one. I don't actually know what the time difference was. Was it 2-3 weeks, something like that?
It was a very short period.
Yeah, usually you get at least a month and a half.
Yeah.
And if there's a World Cup, you get minimum, let's say, 1 month or something. Plus all of the stress of, you're still training at home and stuff like that. Then the whole playing again after the lockdown. That could be one thing, right? Another thing that I actually read that might be interesting, the fact that players are playing with no crowd means they're playing with no fear.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it last time, the crowd makes a huge difference, whether it's Dortmund and Liverpool and so on, all of the stadium makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
And this time, I mean, Madrid is playing in their training ground. They're not even playing in the Santiago.
Yeah, they're playing in the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium,
exactly.
Which is where Real Madrid Castilla actually.
Exactly. And if I want to be a superficial person, if you look at, and I'm going to go completely into basketball, Michael Jordan, for example, he's known to have a certain rituals that he does just to get into the mood of things or mind of things. Could it be a case of the Madrid players, the fact that they're not going into the stadium, they're just going to the training ground, they're not getting the same kind of importance into the game? I mean, I don't know, it's going super into psychological stuff right now.
Well, it is a psychological game. That could very well be the case. It's hard to tell, to be honest, when I'm watching them play. It's just that sometimes I just feel like in the Cadiz and in the Champions League as well against Shakhtar, it just had that feeling of they didn't show up. Plain simple.
It was interesting to see that the Dynamo Kiev game, which was in Ukraine, Dynamo Kiev Juve, they were actually fans.
It was 30%.
They were actually Juventus fans as well. Yeah.
I think some of them, depending on geography, they can have 30%. I think.
Right. Yeah.
Also, so for the roundup of games, the last one we'll touch upon. Very interesting and very exciting game between Everton and Liverpool, 2-2. But a really, really sad ending to that game. Sad aftermath, knowing that Virgil Van Dijk is going to be out for the season. Yehia.
While my Twitter account was still active, I actually saw some Liverpool fans tweeting for a police arrest on Jordan Pickford. Yeah.
So I mean, Yehia, trying to not be biased. Do you think
on charges of assault?
Do you think Pickford should be punished for that challenge?
Yes.
How is that challenge any different than any challenge where other players have unintentionally injured?
Because he was jumping on him like Karate Kid. I don't know. Look, obviously Pickford didn't mean it, right? Yeah. But let's be honest, it's a very dumb challenge.
It was a bad challenge.
It's very bad. It's very dumb. It should have been punished. If not in the game, then after the game, there should have been some sort of repercussion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so here's the thing. If the red card, or let's not say a red card because it didn't happen, thank you, VAR. Anyway.
Thank you, VAR.
Yeah, exactly.
Says the Liverpool fan.
I do not, let me try to get, I can't actually copy Mourinho. I do not want to get fined. What does he say? Anyway.
So this is the football therapist. The whole point of this podcast is for us to be able to therapeutically vent in a healthy manner. So
there's
go ahead.
Nothing therapeutic about what I'm doing. No, but seriously, look. So the one argument I saw is that it's not a red card because it was offside, and then basically, like Pickford isn't the last man or whatever. But it wasn't about is Pickford the last man as much as it's a dangerous tackle, and we've seen precedent before where basically a dangerous tackle or a dangerous play or violent play can get penalized outside of the actual game time. So if you take that concept, then obviously that he should have been punished for it, and the fact that he did not be punished on its own is a big, mistake.
Yeah, I mean, so if you take that view, then he should have been off.
Yeah, pretty much. But he didn't get sent off, which is the wrong message I think the league is sending out, because obviously during the game mistakes happen.
Right.
They feel bad, but it's part of the game. But the fact that you have all of the time in the world after to review and make a decision, and the Premier League still refuses to do anything, and it's not just about Pickford in general. They've taken this stance several times. It's quite baffling, to be honest.
Okay, cool. I think we can move on to our next topic now. So one thing that's been making it a little bit of the headlines recently has been the whole idea of the Project Big Picture in the English leagues. So for those of you who don't know, just a little recap, it was Project Big Picture was basically a plan proposed by Man United and Liverpool, along with the EFL chairman Rick Perry, to overhaul the power structure in the Premier League, and to also financially support the teams in the lower divisions, like in the EFL. And part of it was about reducing the Premier League to 18 teams, scrapping the Carabao Cup and the Community Shield Cups, having the 16th place team join the playoffs for the championship with the championship teams, and some like rescue funds for the EFL teams and so on. But the big topic about the whole thing was that it was going to give special power to 9 teams in the Premier League, namely Arsenal, Chelsea, Everton, Liverpool, United City, Southampton, Tottenham, and West Ham. So basically the teams who have been longest in the league. And this would actually give these teams power to do rule changes, broadcasting rights, to have a say in rule changes, broadcasting rights, and even club takeovers. So there's a lot of controversy about the whole Project Big Picture idea. Now, I think that idea has kind of been scrapped right now, but it's sort of merged into talks about having another contracted league, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at it, the big picture stuff got turned down, which is expected, just because you're going to have the Premier League clubs vote on it, and it's overwhelmingly against the Premier League clubs. So I think if we look at the positives, why did it make big headlines, is because Rick Perry, he came out and said he's for this project, but then in particular, why would he be for it, right? It's terrible, it's bad. Parts of it are bad. The power grab, basically, obviously it's bad. Having an international friendly tournament every 5 years, that's ridiculous. Why would the EFL or the English Football League in general care about all of that stuff? Right. From their perspective, the good thing is that part of the deal was that 25% of the revenue that Premier League makes from broadcasting would get sent to the EFL to be spread across all of the leagues. And as let's say part of that, what would happen is that the parachute payments would also get removed. So what is a parachute payment? Usually when a team gets relegated, they get what is called a parachute payment to keep them, afloat. Yeah. And it's like their share of the Premier League money, because technically speaking, the season before, they had a part in making the Premier League what it is. But what that causes is you have what's called the yo-yo clubs. So a club will go down, they have suddenly 50, 100 million or whatever in the bank. They got rid of all of the crap players. They're able to buy all of the good players in the league. And then 1-2 seasons later, they're back up. Right. Which causes a huge imbalance in, championship in general.
Are those like the West Broms or the Wiggins?
Exactly. That's why you keep seeing the same teams over and over again going up.
Yeah. Okay.
But then by eliminating this and taking 25% of the revenue and spreading it out, you're making a much, much more fair league. And at the same time, you're making sure that the league is much more financially healthy. Because right now what's happening because of Corona and stuff, but a lot of the clubs in League 1, League 2, 3, even in the Championship to a lesser extent, are in financial trouble.
Yeah.
They are going out. I don't remember exactly which club, but a couple of them have already been announced to be, basically bankrupt and no longer active.
I think there was that whole thing with Wigan as well, which was really, there was a big story about them not being able to financially support themselves anymore, and Wigan is a very old club, so it was really
to be honest, I don't remember which club, but it's similar stories like that have been happening a lot.
Yeah.
And being able to get that 25% would be helpful. So obviously you have the EFL, they really don't care about what happens in the Premier League. They just care about getting that 25% and creating that kind of balance in the league. So from their perspective, it was really, really good. But then again, you have people that said that this was basically, let's say a bribe in a way it was. And it's basically screwing... so the teams that were getting screwed over in this are basically all of the middle clubs in the middle, and all of the teams that are constantly getting relegated and going back up. So obviously it got rejected at the end of the day because the optics of it were bad. But then the interesting thing is that when the Premier League came out with their own rushed proposal, it got rejected by the EFL just because the terms that they were offering were no way good or wasn't.
Right. Yeah. So that's out now. That's sort of been
It's out, but I think it's not going to die, which is a good thing because something needs to happen with the EFL.
Right.
And at the same time, something needs to happen in the Premier League in the sense that the amount of games that are currently being played is unsustainable. Whether it's, you have 20 teams, you have 18, you have the Community Cup in the middle, all of that is unsustainable. And to be fair, it's not just like the Community Cup that's an issue, it's all of the internationals that are thrown in the middle that are not needed.
I think the British teams are probably arguably the ones that struggle the most in terms of the amount of match fixtures that they have to deal with in the season. It takes its toll so much on the players, and they end up, a lot of times they can't even give the same attention to other tournaments because they have you have right? Yeah. So this, like Liverpool last year, put in the whole B team,
which was hilarious.
They still won, didn't they?
You have the A team playing, in the World Cup, Club World Cup, and literally on the same day they're playing a Community Shield game. Carabao Cup game.
Yeah.
Actually, they lost 5-0 to Aston Villa. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. It was what's it called? Premonition of things to come.
Exactly. Great foreshadowing. Absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see where that.
That's why the Premier League is better than Game of Thrones.
It is like this whole big power struggle, isn't it? Somehow.
It comes down to the whole Americanism of it, right? So I think it's a blessing that the U.S. teams or the U.S. clubs suck right now. It really is a blessing, just because imagine if you had, U.S. clubs that were basically at the same level as European clubs.
Yeah.
That's it. You are going to have like a worldwide Super League for sure, just because of the money behind it and all of that.
And the marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
Marketing,
which is why, by the way, so that's another thing. So this one was being pushed by Liverpool and United, both owned by Americans.
This was proposed even from, I think, 1997 or 1998. What are they called? The G8 clubs, Juventus, Bayern, Manchester United,
the Premier
Real Madrid.
League. So that's the thing, right?
They wanted to have a European Super League at the time, and
so that was again revived last week. That was again revived last week, and again the two people pushing it were United and Liverpool. Again, the whole American part of it
for a European Super League.
For a European Super League, exactly. So it because let's be honest, like when you look at the NBA, NFL, and all that kind of, they're incredibly successful in terms of the amount of money they make, and NBA is only in the US, and how much money does it make?
I don't know the number, but yeah,
and I'm pretty sure it's more than
crazy amount.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's more than the Champions League makes. It could definitely be more than the World Cup makes in every 4 years or whatever. So, and we say football is the most popular game in the world, so obviously the money is there. It's just that they need the kind of structure, and the kind of structure, sadly, is going to be that kind of Super League. But interestingly, the Super League this time came up after news that UEFA told the clubs that basically 4% of the expected revenue of what they would be getting would be cut this year because of Corona.
Yeah.
And that's when, the whole Super League stuff started coming up again. So maybe it's not going to happen. I hope it's not. It might be more about, let's say, negotiation tactic, which is how we actually got the group stages of the Champions League. It was the whole, like you were just saying, we're going to do, the whole Super League and stuff, and then UEFA told them, it's fine, just we'll give you 4 slots, whatever, we'll have like Champions League group stage and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I hope it's a negotiating tactic. We'll see how UEFA responds to that.
I think this is probably something that's going to keep being discussed for a while.
Yeah.
And we'll keep tabs on it because that's going to be interesting to see where.
Personally, not a fan. I'm a purist.
You like the classical.
I like the classical league structures. Don't change that.
Yeah, let's be honest. The Champions League, the group stages are not what's exciting. It's the knockout stages.
It is the knockouts.
Yeah, so if you start doing a Super League of 18 teams, even if they're the best teams, it's not going to be as exciting.
It's not.
It is always the knockout stages that's when, now I'm going to really focus and watch all of the games if I can.
Loses its sort of value.
Exactly, yeah.
In my opinion, at least.
Yeah. We'll keep tabs on that and see what ends up happening there. So moving forward, we've got a big week ahead of us. Obviously, there's the Clasico happening tonight.
What's your prediction?
If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have told you that Real would probably, I wouldn't say steamroller them, but they would have a relatively easy game. But to be honest, with the way both teams are playing right now, I would really not be surprised if it ends up being a stalemate. And I have never said that about a Clasico before.
Whoever scores an own goal first.
PK and Varane. 1 goal from PK, 1 goal from Varane. That's the prediction. Next week, Champions League is also going to be back, so that's a nice thing. We don't have to wait 2 weeks. It's going to be back again next week, and we're going to see how the teams will follow up on their opening league.
And if Cristiano Ronaldo recovers from his COVID-19...
he just took a test and it was still positive.
It was still positive. So if he's negative apparently 24 hours before the game, we will have a nice big Messi versus Ronaldo fixture.
Yeah.
That shows you how hypocritical we are. Like, we were just saying they're playing so many games, and now we're like, Champions League, you don't have to wait a lot. I mean, it is a thing, right? We're always excited, but at the same time, it's screwing up the...
But I mean, it's not like every week you have 2 giants clashing.
That's true, that's actually true.
And speaking of
which, isn't today Chelsea and United?
Yeah.
It's going to be a good game to watch.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. That's going to be at around
8:30
Dubai time.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the feeling for the players, but as fans we want to watch as much as we can, right? So before we wrap up, there's one topic that I think we can end with. It was an interesting thing that's been happening this past week. The curious case of Mesut Ozil. So Arsenal's highest paid player, 8 months left on his £350 a week contract, and now he's been left out of both the Europa League and the EPL squads. He's been questioning the club's loyalty. So this is something that obviously I'm sure hurts a few Arsenal fans because he did really well for the club initially. But it's really surprising that this is happening with Ozil and Arsenal because he was one of the cogs. So a few things happened. There was the fact that he refused to take a pay cut when the club approached him. Apparently he doesn't train well. There was a whole political thing a while back about his comments about the Uyghur population in China and how that was treated.
And his picture with Erdogan.
With Erdogan. And then, Arsenal at the time released a statement saying that that's his opinion, and they sort of distanced themselves from it. We don't want to make a political statement. But it could also just purely be that he doesn't fit as a classic number 10 in Arteta's 3-4-3 system, right? So I just really wonder what's behind all of that.
I mean, ask yourself a question. When is the last time you remember a true classic number 10 playing?
So it's kind of that the advancement of the...
Yeah, but I mean,
the classic number 10
the classic number 10 that we grew up knowing, when was the last time you remember a team employing that kind of setup or tactic?
I mean, I'm not his biggest fan, but cough, Messi, maybe. But
no, Messi's the only one that's actually doing it right now, and it's because he's getting gold. So he's trying to play that role, which isn't working because the support isn't there. But I mean, ignoring Messi because he's Messi.
Because he's Messi.
Yeah. When is the last time you guys remember that?
That's a good point. It's been quite a different dynamic, I think, when teams are approaching the final third.
Exactly.
So rather than having your classic number 10 pulling the strings, I would go as far as to say as maybe Ozil for Madrid.
Yeah, actually, Ozil for Madrid, and then a couple of years for Arsenal. Because if you think about it, where the 10 player plays, that's now the role of, let's say, your Firminos, your Benzemas.
Yeah.
Even Kane is very hardworking and comes back. You no longer have a number 10.
You have your number 9 coming back to take the ball deep and get things.
Yeah, you expect every single player in the pitch, unless you're Ronaldo or Messi, to defend.
Yeah.
Now, maybe not the best criteria to evaluate this, but let just for the sake of the discussion, does Mesut Ozil get unfairly scapegoated by Arsenal fans, judging from Arsenal fan TV? And that's I know, not the best criteria again, but like, and judging from Arsenal fans in general, I mean, they really scapegoat the hell out of that guy, and I feel that it's very unwarranted or undeserved.
So I think Ozil is part to blame in the sense that he did not change his game. He's an excellent number 10, but number 10s are no longer part of the modern game. And he didn't try to adapt. He didn't try to reinvent himself. So how many times has Messi reinvented himself? How many times has Ronaldo reinvented himself? How many times have most assists in one Champions League season, James Milner reinvented himself?
You have to plug that.
So, but you get my point. Players, as they get older, they reinvent themselves. All of the great players did it. Pirlo started an attacking midfielder, ended as defensive midfielder.
Right.
There's so many examples. Also, since he started, he's been the number 10, and despite the fact that the game is changing, he's not adapting.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is on him, to be honest. He is a victim of the fact that the tactical game is changing, but that is always going to be the case. Every 5 years they're going to have tactical innovations. Like, you guys remember tiki-taka, like the craze over that?
Yeah.
Where is it now?
Oh yeah, I remember.
No, but seriously,
remember
everybody's
very
like,
well.
we have to start playing tiki-taka. It's like nobody actually understands is it about space, because we were still very stupid back then. But, the game changes. And if, as a player, you're not adapting to it, you're going to be left behind.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna. Obviously, I have a soft spot for Ozil because
personally, I love watching Mesut Ozil, especially when he's having a great day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an absolute pleasure to watch.
I have a soft spot for him, obviously, because of his Madrid background. But if I'm going to be extremely honest, if he really is not adapting, if he really does not fit into Arteta's system, and also he doesn't train well,
But
as a coach,
it's not just Arteta's system, also the same with Emery.
Any 3-4-3 system.
Yeah.
I would say then as a coach, either get on board or I'll cut you. Now, from the other hand, I would also say, but there is a quality there that I can make real use of. He's got 8 months left on his contract. It's a really expensive contract. I think they're just trying to say, you know what, let's just stick to the system. It's working so far. About him being scapegoated, I've even heard people say that him offering to pay the mascot's wages, because Gunnersaurus, the Arsenal mascot, was due to COVID supposedly going to be fired, and then Mesut Ozil stepped in and saved his job, and he said, I'll pay his wages. Yeah. Some people are actually saying that's just Mesut Ozil's way of embarrassing the club because of all this that's happening.
Mesut Ozil's on Twitter right now cheerleading the club, and Mikel Arteta just mentioned him and said, I'm happy he's giving us shout-outs. And
they're going to have to be politically correct.
It's such a strange situation, and like he put out a letter, loyalty letter saying that he's going to keep training harder and he's going to try to see out the season and get back into the club and whatnot. But
he's trying to get his loyalty bonus.
He's probably also thinking about his next move.
I think it's a bizarre situation.
It's a bizarre situation.
But it took him how many years to say, I'm going to commit and try to train hard?
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's about the next club, optics for the next club.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, interesting to see what ends up happening with that. Maybe we might have an interesting winter transfer window on our hands.
I hope so. We need a defender. Fabinho has been amazing.
Great.
Anyway.
Awesome. So I think that does it for today. I'm going to go and start mentally preparing myself for tonight's Clasico. Guys, thanks again for joining once again. Always fruitful conversation. I think we have a lot of content that we're also going to be bouncing back and forth off air, and there's also going to be a lot of games played in between. So thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us, Ramy, and I hope I don't forget any names in the next episode. But for what it's worth, it was De Vrij.
De Vrij.
Yeah, that was the interdefender that I forgot.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back very, very soon. Stay tuned. Keep hitting that subscribe button. Bye-bye.